off screen, and something we were mentioning on the analyst desk is the APA specialty drafts that you have to come up with when you're facing off against Resolve here. The Ziggs getting buffed in this last patch for 11.12 means that it is extremely powerful at the moment, and with it being something that APA has kind of held in the back pocket for quite a while now, I'm not surprised to see it being banned out here. Same thing with the Karma, another APA special that can be flex pick into the top or support positions, a very powerful enchanter mage that is going to be able to open up so many different avenues of play for Resolve. Do not want to give that one over to the hands of Always Plan Ahead if he's going to be able to play that one in the mid lane. Meanwhile, on the other side, typical red side bans being started off here with that Gwen being taken away and the Akali, another powerful flex pick taken off the board.
Probably really coming up in priority in the recent patch. Back in Challenger Uprising wasn't quite as big an issue. Shinzao actually being taken away by TSM Amateur. I was expecting that to be a bit more of a red side ban coming through here because TSM Amateur, our blue side, they do potentially get first pick here. But you know what? If they do ban it, there are other really strong first picks. We've seen a lot of Ezreal, Rumble, notably, still not banned here, and both these teams do play that Rumble jungle.
I'm actually surprised to see that the Xin Zhao is banned so early on in this rotation here, simply because you already banned out the Karma. I guess they don't want to give over the power for the likes of a Seraphine Xin Zhao being picked up, or even the Yumi Ezreal here for the first round of pickups for Resolve if they wanted to have it. That Rumble you did mention is going to be the first lock-in for TSM Academy or Amateur here, so a very powerful jungler, something that can be flexed into the mid and top side as well, though most commonly we do see it being played in that jungle role will be going over to the hands of Frost Forest.
Lucian, hey, that wasn't quite the answer I was expecting. You know, I was gonna say I'm glad you brought up the Seraphine here, Icarus, because Seraphine Hecarim was something Resolve played to great effect. Fnatic, one of the first Hecarim reusers here with the Divine Sunderer buffs, but none of that today. It's Lucian Diana, and that's probably going to be mid-jungle duo coming through. A lot of huge early game strength. Diana does well into Rumble early on. You pair the Lucian on, and sure, Rumble can burn them down really quickly, but likewise, Rumble can also get bursted down by this duo very quickly.
And I personally am a huge fan of this Diana pick. I think it goes very unnoticed in the current meta of junglers with the hyper focus on Xin Zhao and Rumble. It is such a powerful duelist option, as you mentioned here, for the side of Resolve, and it plays into the way that Fnatic likes to play these games. He likes to play very aggressive, and he struggled so far to really make lasting impressions on the map once his team is able to get a lead for themselves, something that Return was mentioning on the analyst desk. So by picking up the likes of this Diana, you're going to be giving yourself a lot more dueling potential. You're going to be giving yourself a lot more potential for Fnatic to really look for aggressive plays, look for invades, and that also opens up the avenue for this Lee Sin solo lane pick to be coming in here as well for Resolve, something that you need to pair with an AP style jungler. So all across the board here, it looks like there's fairly standard plans of attack. AP junglers with AD solo laners coming in from both TSM Amateur and Resolve.
Resolve here opting to potentially pick their solo lanes. I mean, Lucian AD carry would be quite a bit of a surprise here. I'm not sure Ray really has that in his wheelhouse. And Lee Sin coming through for Pycake Lord right away. You know what? PCL's been playing a lot of Lee Sin. Most played top laner for him in Challenger Uprising here. And they've waited to pick up their bot lane coming through. That is going to allow TSM Amateur to pinch it. And Kaisa, something that is still up, is still available. Array has played a lot of it and is one of the matchups which does pretty well into this Ezreal here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a ban from TSM Amateur for that. And for Resolve, maybe a Nautilus ban coming through. That Nautilus Rumble combo has been terrorizing League at all levels of the game right now.
I do like to see the Jace ban that came in here from Resolve, something that we were looking into for TSM Amateur during their open qualifiers runs. During their first series versus Glaive, Eclipse busted out the Jace in both games and showed an absolutely dominating performance on it. If you guys didn't get a chance to see it, there are VODs over on the Proving Grounds podcast channel for Twitch that you can go back, check out some of the open qualifiers, including that series versus TSM Amateur versus Glaive. And they came out of that series 2-0. The second game, an absolute smash coming in from the TSM squad here. So rounding out the rest of these bans, though, that Nautilus pick is going to stay up and available, which could potentially be picked up from Resolve here, but it's going to be Nocturne and Callista that are taken off of the board here. Again, another 80 carry being targeted banned by TSM.
I mean, they could just pick the Nautilus themselves, right? They do have to pick right here. I'm just more surprised. Like the Array Callista, that is something definitely to respect. But is Callista really the answer here to Ezreal? Apparently not. Resolve that Kai'Sa, that's old faithful for Array. You leave it up, he's gonna pick it. Why not here? You've got the dive comp already set up with the Diana, with the Lee Sin, and you didn't ban a single support here. You can pick an Alistair, you can pick a Leona. All of them do well with that Kai'Sa.
I think it's important to keep in mind that, you know, they give up the Nautilus, sure, but by not showing which support they're picking up here, they can go for very specific counter matchups in that bottom lane. Galio being locked in here, I'm almost certain once we're able to see this last pick, will be either support or mid lane. So it really comes down to, where does TSM want to put their pressure here? How do they want to play around the map? Do they want to be playing more mid lane focus and allow this Galio to go into the bottom lane so you could heroic entrance into the mid lane? Or do you want to play the other way around, where you have your mid lane rotating down towards the bottom side of the map? If the Syndra does get locked in, which it is, it means that they're looking to play very mid here focus, and that's something we're talking about on the analyst desk. It's going to be the Doxa diff for this game coming in from TSM Amateur.
It's a familiar matchup for Doxa here. I do believe it was against EG Prodigies and Challenger Uprising. This was the same matchup. They see the Lucian. This is their answer, Syndra here. And in the early couple levels, the first 5 levels there, Lucian does get to enjoy a little bit more lane dominance, better trades here. But when you hit that level 6, that unleashed power can certainly mess up a Lucian's day here. So I feel like Resolve, the mid jungle synergy. We're talking so much about it here. Fan as the APA, pardon me, this dual combo, that's on a bit of a timer. At 6 with Equalizer, with that unleashed power, if Diana, if Lucian are sitting on that, you get absolutely melted. You get kind of destroyed a little bit too. The Galio support, we didn't touch too much on that. Great answer to Kai'Sa. And to me, I'm looking at that Galio now, because Equalizer is best when you pair it with some sort of CC to hold the target into place. Sure, you've got the scatter of the week from Syndra, but that's a it's a very conditional sort of stun. The taunt is much, much more reliable, but it's also short ranged, hard to get here. And I would have liked to see a bit more AoE CC. We'll have to see how this mass taunt coming through from Dombre is going to work.
I really do like that you mentioned the AoE CC that needs to be coming in from TSM Amateur here, because it's something we don't always see when paired with this Rumble jungle. I know that you get a lot of flack on Twitter these past couple of weeks about the Rumble and the jungle pickup, just because there's so many teams that'll go for that raw equalizer with no CC follow-up, nothing to really set up that ultimate ability that's coming in here that does so much burn damage. And like you said, it's very difficult for Galio to be the only real form of engage here, because Set does have the ultimate in order to try and go forward, but that requires that he picks somebody up, lands him down into across the entire enemy team. So it's really going to be difficult here for this Galio to find a way into the enemy backline using that heroic entrance. Meanwhile, on the other side, you do always have the Lee Sin effect. You have this Leona that's a fantastic one-directional champion. We're going to go in for a fight, and we're going to take that fight right now. And with the outplay potential that Lee Sin and Diana always have on the table, Resolve, yes, if they fall behind, it makes it difficult for them, because they have such a forward-facing composition that wants to be going in, that wants to be taking these aggressive fights, but they still have options to kite out with this double AD carry composition as well.
And double 80 carry scales really, really well. We have to remember that. Granted, Ezreal is always a hard one to do, especially with the Divine Thunder. That item is just completely busted right now. Ezreal can literally 1v9 if you position properly. And, we spoke about it on the analyst desk. Mega Blaze can return. Both of them talking about the fact that Gorica, very, very stable AD carry player here. You put him on something like the Ezreal, where he's got that sort of agency on his own, doesn't have to rely on the team. Well, he can potentially carry. And I do like how it's coming down a little bit to how these AD carries do interact, Array versus Gorica here. And, we talked about the Diana, talked about the Lee Sin, but the Moon and Sun combo here, Leona and Diana might be enemies in the game, but when they're on the same team, the AoE is really, really nasty here. You've got the long range engage as well. And Hero's entrance isn't going to necessarily save you. The Syndra, not terribly mobile for Doxa here. So I'm a little bit worried for Doxa in these team fights. I feel like, yeah, Gark is going to do his own thing, and then Doxa is just going to be left there holding the bucket, if you will, where Resolver just all jump in and eliminating the easiest, squishiest target they can find.
And I want to go back a little bit to what we were talking on the analyst desk about how Resolve likes to play for these team fights in the later stages of the game. They like to go for that third dragon almost every single game, trying to pick up a team fight success and get that ace around that third Drake, as they mentioned. And when you have a composition like Resolve's with this double AD carry, with how squishy their front line is, it makes it difficult for them to go for that third dragon of the game if they start to fall behind. A lot of that onus is going to be on TSM amateurs to play their laning phases safely here, because versus the likes of Lucian, versus the likes of the Lee Sin and an aggressive Diana who has some interesting ganking patterns with that resetting dash ability, then you're going to have a difficult time feeling like you can stall out and play safe in these early stages. So when it comes to the when it comes to that third dragon team fight win condition for Resolve, they really need to try and find themselves some early leads. So I guess I misspoke a little bit there. The onus isn't on TSM, it's on Resolve to find some early leads for themselves.
And that when you look at their draft as well, they have a composition really to get that early leads. We touched on the Lucian Diana. I mean, Leona Kaisa, that's a kill lane as well. Granted, you've got a Galio who is technically sort of a counter to these sort of dive comps to this Leona, but you can definitely burst that down, especially before the Ezreal gets the Sheen. Top lane, we haven't touched too much on that Icarus. Set versus Lee Sin matchup here. That generally is highly set favor. Lee Sin's mobility doesn't count too much when you dash and try to safeguard away. Set just grabs you, pulls you right back in, you start brawling. I'm looking at TSM top lane here. If Rumble starts ganking there, if PCL gets set behind on this Lee Sin, that could be a point they could exploit a little bit come the first two dragons, and then maybe third dragon if the Lee Sin's kind of down, if that kind of snowballs into your jungle, Fnatic starts losing pace in the jungle here, then hey, maybe you set up the equalizer is going to be enough in a tight choke point. If it just so happens third Drake is Mountain Drake, then everything goes TSM Amateur's way.
And that's really where TSM Amateur is trying to fight that stylistic choice that Resolve typically has. They gained a lot of AoE damage. They have a lot of AoE CC with the Sindra Scatter the Weak and that Galio taunt here. I apologize to everyone at home. We are having a little bit of client-side issues, and that's why it's taking us a little bit of time to get set up into this first game of the series. But thank you all for sticking with us as we get set up for that. We are going to go ahead and throw it over to a quick delay as we get set up and get this this champion select rolling for you guys, and we'll be back in a few minutes with the game itself. We'll see you guys soon. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we make our way onto the Rift here in our first game of the series between TSM Amateur and Resolve. Both of these teams setting up an early 5-point start in order to begin this game off, so nothing too spicy at these levels 1, but RMC, looking into this game, let's get the analysts started early. How do you feel about this game? Where are you going to be looking to start off this series?
I mean, right away here, we heard on the analyst desk, it's all about the jungle mid duos here. Fnatic and Always Plan Ahead versus Frost, Forest, and Doxa. And personally, I really want to see how Frost Forest performs. In the open qualifiers, he looked really, really solid and was just winning straight up jungles, and that snowballed into lanes as well. This time, there's that existing synergy. Can they match Fan and APA here? They're clearing out a ward right away. Some sort of synergy? Sweeper synergy?
Hey, I mean, they saw the ward go down, they go back for the sweeper, they get up. That's an extra free bit of gold in the early game. As far as I'm aware, that's where you type GG easy in chat and you call it a day. You get first minion, you get first CS like that. And now APA, look at him. He's a whole whopping 20 gold ahead now at the end of the day for that one. But it will just mean a little bit of that pathing is going to be denied here from the side of TSM Amateur. I'm sure they have a good idea. Fnatic will be starting on this top side due to the fact that he showed so late on that top ward to clear out, but it just means that ward won't be available if they try and go to this river in the early stages of the game.
And again, both junglers, their starts are going to be known. Nobody tried to hide the leash coming through here. And for Array and Winter bot lanes, getting control of your waves early is absolutely massive, especially when you've got a Leona. If you get that level too early, you dive onto that Galio, you dive onto that Ezreal, and Ezreal doesn't have Arcane Shift at level 1, only the Mystic Shot. That's kill potential right there.
Kill potential at level 1. This next minion goes down. Level 2 will be achieved by the bottom lane of Resolve, but the wave doesn't look to be in a decent position. So Gorka can just easily back up, be underneath his turret for safety. He will be able to absorb this wave as it crashes here. We'll have to keep an eye to make sure that he gets all that CS as much as possible at least, but he should be able to hit level 2 fairly safely.
Yeah, that shouldn't be an issue at all. My other question on the bot lane just becomes, are they stacking? Are they waiting for the Diana for Fnatic to come down and help? It looks a little early for that, so unlikely. And in the top side of the map, it's the opposite situation right now where Eclipse is just taken off away in that top side. Already a significant CS differential. That is to be expected with this particular matchup. With Frost Forest coming up as well, if they can get a bit more poke down, a bit more damage, a bit more trading in favor of that set, we could potentially see a stack dive.
We might see that stack dive. We'll have to see where Frost Forest goes for his pathing here. The ward gets put down at an expert time by Cake Lord there in order to see that this Rumble is looking for that top lane dive. However, he will have to back away and lose the rest of this wave. Me on the bottom side, that's going to be a engage coming in from the bottom lane of Resolve. It will mean a lot of the damage going on to TSM Gorica, but it's not going to result in any summoner spells being used just quite yet.
All the bot laners here holding their nerve. They know what they can take. The taunt away. Good play from Dombre. That's exactly how this lane is going to repeatedly go. Fnatic is in the area grabbing Scuttle, but both teams very conservative, very safe starts. The warding has been on point here for these side lanes. And that does mean, though, that the mid lane, that's a potential place we look. APA trading well into Doxa here.
We do have to keep an eye on how all these lanes are going to be trading for the side of Resolve because, as we mentioned, they want to try and find themselves an early lead. Kai'Sa typically does like to scale into the game, but if she falls behind, struggles a lot when it comes to these mid-game team fights without having an early game lead. Same could be said for the solo lane Lucian and the solo lane Lee Sin, all kind of known to be lane bullies looking to try and bully their opponents out here. And so far, we have seen a successful 10 CS lead being accrued in the bottom lane. Again, up to Gorica to try and farm this wave out as best he can with these scaling picks in the Ezreal. The set also a good lane matchup, but it is going to eventually turn more into that kind of bruiser tank role for his team.
Yeah, one of the lanes the analysts that didn't touch too much on was this top lane between Cake Lord and Eclipse. And I think generally speaking, the sentiment has been that Cake Lord is a very, very good laner. You might have heard of the nickname Can lane, Can't lane. At least in the last little while, Pi definitely can lane here. So I think I'm actually a little bit surprised to put that any look into the top side at all here. I think you leave them in an island. You look for the mid. No, now we're starting to see everybody rotate here. Fnatic and Winter on the collapse.
quick flash being reacted there by Doxon or make sure he doesn't get engaged on. I don't know if they know that Fnatic is here or not. Comes out of the bush, isn't going to be able to find much for himself, and it's going to be a quick walk away from both of these teams here. But on the bottom side, Array, he's walking forward. That's the flash. There's blood. Array with the 1v1 solo below in the bottom lane.
Dude, the late flash from Gorka tells me that they weren't expecting that burst. I wasn't expecting that burst damage in the 1v1. Array, no fear, knows this champion. And that's why we said in Champion Select, if you're going to ban things, why not the Kai'Sa into the Ezreal? We saw it already now, even at 6. It's only going to get worse. If you leave Gorica alone, Killer Instinct, that's going to be a nice, easy kill over and over again. And unfortunately for TSM Amateur, they've kind of lost out, gave up first blood here, but they're still farming. They're still even in gold, and that's more important.
Supports are still just hovering around the mid lane. Neither of them really looking to go back to their laning phase. Instead, Array wanted to take these 1v1s versus Gorica, and Gorica believing that this Ezreal is a strong enough champion to stay safe on the bottom side of the map now that he has access to that arcane shift. Everyone has rotated to the top side of the map, so supports are doing the whole map transition here. That's going to be the engage coming in by Winter here. Everyone is dropping what they can. Down onto Doxy. He gets blown down immediately. The Coling doing so much work. It will be returned by Jumbury, but over the wall goes Lee Sin. He's able to stay safe. Double kill being picked up by Fnatic here. And the health bars coming in from APA is so low, but he's only left with support. Dawnbury is able to go down there as APA kites that one out, and PCL finds the 4th kill of the fight, finishing off Frost Force. Meanwhile, this entire time, the 80 carries just farming away in the bottom lane.
Junglers weren't 6 yet, Icarus. If the equalizer was there, I think everything turns on its head, but they just weren't ready. And Resolve, they read TSM Amateur like a book there. They had the vision. They knew everybody was in. And that made all the difference because they knew what they were walking into. The initiate from Winter was spot on. They burst one down, and after that, it was just a game of inches. The fact that only one member went down there, Winter, the support, that's perfect for Resolve. They don't have to wait for 3rd Dragon now. First Dragon should be theirs. Inferno Drake is up right now. And once they start hitting those level 6s, especially in that bot lane, I want to see them look for that Dragon.
And it's going to be so scary for whoever Fnatic goes to gank. Meanwhile, bottom lane, hold on. That's going to be the equalizer used just to disengage in order to keep Gorica alive. Burning so much health off of Array here. He's trying his best to stay alive here. He wants to find a way onto Gorica, but is not going to be able to find it. Meanwhile, teleport from Eclipse will secure the 2nd kill of that bottom lane fight. A little bit of an over-aggression coming in from Resolve.
Advantage they accrued there. You know what? Resolve's still ahead in gold, but they just lost the Dragon here because they did not respect the teleport mismatch. PCL did not roam down as well. Rightfully so. They were kind of dead to rights there. So really good bounce back from TSM Amateur. And they continue to look proactive. I like this look from them here. And with that equalizer, fairly short cooldown, already halfway up. I want to see them use it again and again. They've got good setup for it.
First Dragon, as you mentioned, will be picked up by TSM Amateur. I want to see where this game continues to go, though, as we got to keep an eye of where these kills have gone so far. 1 kill apiece for the set, the Rumble, and the support Galio. Meanwhile, on the side of Resolve, 2 of those kills have gone over to the pocket of Fnatic on this jungle Diana, who's finally got that reset coming in there. Will be completing up the Merc Treads, has a blasting on, as well as that Hextech alternator. So a lot of strong components here coming in from the jungler of Resolve in order to take some more trades focused around this jungle mid duo that we've been looking at all games so far this series.
Now, for the side of Resolve, the only objective up right now is Herald. The TP advantage that PCL has right now doesn't matter too much. So I would like to see, Winter roam up a little bit, try and get some play topside, and then maybe you get that TP advantage bot. Array is strong enough to handle the 1v1. Even frankly, the 1v2 is going to be fairly safe. The Flash is almost back up. Cleanse is also up here. But instead, while all that was happening, Frost Forest solos down the Herald once again. Resolve not really focusing on these objectives early.
This might be, again, the tale of the 3rd Dragon of the game team fight coming in from Resolve, as they don't care too much for these early game Drakes. And I'm surprised to see that a team that has the early game advantages, that has the leads here, isn't going to be looking for the objectives, because we're always told time and time again through the pro scene that this is an objective-based game. You need to be looking for these Drakes. Going for that early Dragon stacking is oh so important here for either team that wants to have an early game lead so that they can try and go towards that soul as quickly as possible. Top lane, we do have a bit of a trade going on. Eclipse is going to get the better half of that, as we still don't see a whole lot of damage being built by Cake Lord here, opting for that early Bramble Vest instead. We're going to have the Iron Spike Whip that's been completed by Eclipse, so it's a little bit of tank stats versus the additional damage for the top lane of TSM.
I don't think PCL is necessarily looking to do the 1v1 solo kill at this point here. You're not really building just to deal with the set in a split push. You just want to survive this, and it's more the utility you bring to the rest of the fight. Fnatic coming up, though, 2v1. They can definitely take this one.
They're going to try and get their way onto the top laner Eclipse here. That's going to be the ultimate committed by Diana in order to pull back this set. So close to getting a return kill on that Haymaker, but not quite enough. It is yet another kill being picked up on top side by Resolve.
You know, that's what I mean. PCL doesn't have to bother dealing 1v1. You can always just wait for your jungler, drop by, pick up those kills here. Fnatic did have to burn the Moonfall for that one, but in every other lane, the Moonfall is actually less important. If you find Gorica, you can stick on him with that double Luna Rush. Mid lane as well, Doxa, very squishy. Punishable there. The additional burst from the ult's nice, but you've already got the Lucian damage as well. And once again here, Icarus, I gotta say, this mid lane, they're not ganking it whatsoever. They've given them isolated lanes. APA has, kind of as expected here, played it really, really well. But I just feel like there's more they could be doing. If you win the mid lane harder, if you take full control of that mid lane, it gives you so much more control over the river, over these objectives.
And we do see a 10 CS differential coming in here for APA just based off of his laning prowess here, but imagine the amount of map control that he could have if he was able to be freed up in that middle lane. We do normally see APA play kind of these shove lane, roam to side lane style champions like the Ziggs, or play more passively where he just wants to farm up. So seeing him on the Lucian where he could be looking for that roams and instead looking for just a lot of 1v1s in the lane without getting help from his jungler feels a little off character for the side of Resolve here. I would like to see, as you mentioned, more pressure being put into this mid lane, but it looks like Fnatic is more worried about keeping Cake Lord alive on the top side of the map as he's going to be going in onto the Rumble. A lot of damage being bursted out onto Frost Forest here. The engage is not going to get the reset on that, but that's going to be the flash for the Moonfall. Finds two. It's going to find the first kill on the Frost Forest here. APA goes down on the backside of that as the Grand Entrance is going to be able to take him down extremely low. Now Diana still going on the killing spree set, dropping down extremely low, but is there going to be another kill picked up here for the side of Resolve? No. Instead, the 1v1 is supportal combat. Meanwhile, Lee Sin is trying to find his way onto set. Everyone shows up topside, but at the end of the day, we're still back to a 2v2 here. Set dropping down so low, but Winters is able to get that kill. It's a game of inches, RMC, and it is Resolve that keeps winning.
Winter is coming, picked up the double kill as Leona, and I suspect, I would love to be able to double check this. I think it was the Eclipse which actually killed Eclipse, because he was mid-animation for Showstopper, didn't have time to put up the shield, and ended up getting popped there. Resolve just barely coming out ahead, and you know what? If the action won't go to the mid lane, I guess the mid lanes will go to the action here. I don't hate it, I just don't necessarily see the point of that top lane dive. That control ward has been up there forever, and it's been doing so much work for the side of Resolve's top lane.
They keep finding Frost Force looking for those top lane dives, and it hasn't worked yet. Meanwhile, we have another fight going on in the mid lane. APA barely makes it out alive. The Rift Herald will crash and give some gold over back to the side of TSM. And as Eclipse teleports in, he's able to get a return kill with the Shridebreaker, but now he's up creek without a paddle here. He's going to be going down to the hands of Fnatic as well. 2 for 1 at the end of the day.
Not just punching stuff doesn't get you through everything and anything there. Creeks don't give way. Dragon is up right now, and Frost Forest is dead. With that Solar Flare available, with that Moonfall available here, this should be Resolve's Dragon to take, and I am very, very curious what the final soul is going to be here, Icarus. Because if it is that Mountain Soul like we talked about, that's going to give TSM Amateur a bit of an edge, more of those tight, choked corridors. And even if it is a Cloud Drake, that means faster ultimates. What's it gonna be? Mountain Soul TSM Amateur with the terrain advantage here.
And that's always going to be so nice if you're playing the likes of this Rumble or this Cinder with the Scout of the Week, with that Equalizer, as you mentioned. Everyone on the side of TSM Amateur really likes to have that Dragon. I also think that the Wind Soul would have been interesting for the cooldown reduction on ultimates, but with the Mountain Drake, we have to keep an eye on the resistances for the rest of this game. Getting the stat increase for that magic and armor, the magic resistance and armor stats will be so huge here for both of these teams, as we have more trading on top side of the map here, not going to result in much.
Ooh, I mean, it's going to result in Eclipse eating a lot of damage there. I'm actually surprised PCL is starting to hit the point where he's winning these trades is a level up. And, Mythics coming through right now. Resolve sitting on a bit of a power spike for themselves here. 4 Mythics compared to TSM Amateurs 2 Mythics. TSM have to be a little bit careful. And even when those Mythics come through here, their bot lane, Gorica sitting on the Divine Sunder is going to feel weaker than Array. You need that Mirror Mana to really start becoming that long-range poke machine that really chunks everything, tanks or squishies here. It's a ways away. We're not seeing the components yet. The tier's only at 213 stacks, about 2/3 of the way there.
And considering that Gorica went down for first blood in this game and that solo kill by Array, he's done a fantastic job of being able to continue to absorb pressure, just not being prepared for that flash killer or for the flash Void Seeker from Array really set him off. But besides that, he has played this lane quite well, only down 15 CS considering just how often we see Donbray leaving him alone with Array, who has those extra 2 kills here. Now we're finally starting to see some pressure, some pings coming down on the bottom side of the map as Frostfire might be looking to set up for a dive onto Array here, as we also have Donbray rotating over.
See how far Array is standing here. Rightfully so, because even if you only see Frostforce and Gorica, you have to remember Donbray's got that hero's entrance. He can very quickly rejoin that bot lane. Oh, Fnatic top here. I don't expect them to use the Herald. They don't need it. You can still hold on to it here. And they actually get first break. They beat out Gorica on the bot side.
Ooh, that's such an aggressive dash forward coming in by PA. Good job on the scatter of the week there coming in from Doxa. Stepping away from that solar flare as well, making sure that he doesn't go down to the aggressive play in the mid lane from Resolve, but will result in the top side of the map going down for TSM Amateur there. First brick picked up by Resolve. Now they're going to be able to start looking for some of these deep wards in that top side jungle, really giving Pancake Lord a little bit more dominance. As we mentioned before, he's starting to win this 1v1 matchups versus Eclipse on the top side of the map.
To be honest with you here, Chris, I'm a little bit surprised that Resolve decided to just let the bot lane turret go like that. Third Drake is coming up, and you heard it from Return here, who knows Resolve really, really well. They like to play around that dragon. You lose that turret there, you are losing some of that control. That bot lane becomes more dangerous to walk through. And we can see on the minimap, bot side, very blue right now. TSM Amateur have the vision set up to see those funnel points, to see you walking into the dragon pit here. So in about 1:40, well, actually before that, I want to see about 1:15. I want to see Resolve setting up for this dragon, making sure that you're already there and that you're not funneling through a choke point into a team fight team, or not really a team fight team, but a team with very good choke point control with the Galio, with the True Shot Barrage, with the Scatter of the Weak, and with that most important equalizer.
What I would like to see Resolve do here is, with Fnatic going back to base, they're picking up that Zhonya's. It means that they are looking for this Diana to make the big engage play for the side of Resolve here. He also has that Rift Herald available, so if you go towards the middle lane, you can drop down the Rift Herald, force mid control for your team, and then seize control of that bottom lane river when you're not having to walk through the choke points of that bottom side jungle. Instead, he will be walking just straight towards this dragon, trying to get a pink ward down to the pit. Will have dominance over the dragon pit itself, and now we need to keep an eye on this bottom lane, because we have to keep our eyes on these laners here, because potential dives, offset matchups are being set up everywhere just 40 seconds before this dragon.
Okay, Chris, this is the third time Frostforce is looking top here, and finally that ward goes down. It's been forever and a day, and this should signal to Resolve that, hey, their jungler's top, we can start making plays bot side. Jungler's definitely got no TP. Doxa used the TP mid as well.
Rift Herald was pop mid lane as well here, so with that TP coming up for Eclipse and Pancake Lord having his available, we can look towards this bottom side of the map. Rift Herald will crash, but it's not going to result in that mid lane turret going down for the side of TSM there, so Resolve still has to deal with that middle lane turret. They can't quite take control of the mid wave yet, but instead they're setting up so deep in the enemy jungle. Early teleport coming in by APA as well. He was able to get a reset, finishes that Essence Reaver, and now they're looking to establish dominance of this mid lane once more time.
Yeah, and we saw the pings come down. TSM Amateur were pinging mid lane turret there. There's a pretty good chance that they're just going to look to trade that dragon for the turret if they can. No, they're just completely backing off. So yeah, that is a free dragon being handed over to Resolve. It is only the second Drake for this team here. You're not too worried about the dragon stacking just yet. It's 20 minutes. Baron will be coming up shortly here, and I respect the call from TSM Amateur. You're not at your power spike. We spoke about the mirror mana for Gorica. It's not there yet, and I think you just continue stalling out till you hit that item break point, till you start hitting that 2-item power spike, and then maybe you look then just fresh off the buy to find a little bit of a fight.
But again, that makes it so scary for the side of TSM Amateurs here, because you are still looking down the barrel of this double AD carry composition from Resolve. The Lucian being on 2 items, Array being on 2 items itself, just going back to base and finishing up that Phantom Dancer means that there's an accelerated pace here coming in from Resolve, sitting at about just a little under 5,000 gold ahead of their opponents. They're starting to take over this game, and even though they didn't get their 3rd dragon fight where they aced the opponent, as we keep going back to here from return, they still controlling the map. They're still finding themselves the leads here. They're able to pick up the bottom lane turret despite all the pressure that was being put in the mid lane there when Fnatic was controlling that bottom side jungle, and we saw Pycake Lord move forward and get that. So they evened up the turrets here on the top and bottom side of the map. Now this game looks like we're gonna have a little bit of an NA ram coming out here, as both teams really want to try and pressure for this mid lane turret in order to establish dominance and control of the jungle.
You know what? If it is an NA rem that we get here, I think it's well deserved, Icarus. Both those mid lane turrets are kind of low, and it's not as if they're really sending all 5 members to that mid lane. They are still trying to control the side lanes, get the pressure. But as you pointed out, those are hyper long lanes right now. It's not just one outer turret which went down. Both outer turrets went down for both sides. So it's a little bit risky. We've seen that PCL has been winning that bit of a 1v1 so far. And then my question becomes, what about Doxa? APA's been handling Doxa pretty well. Is that a 1v1 matchup that they're comfortable leaving for either of these teams, really?
We'll see Frostforce as he tries to make his way down towards the bottom side of the map. A lot of pings being dropped everywhere here as Baron buff is finally being warded up by the side of Resolve. That's going to be a 1v1 on the top side. Oh my god, so low there from APA. The flash forward is not going to be able to find the culling as the unleashed power barely doesn't kill APA either. Super narrow margins here from both mid laners.
We're getting a bit of a AD carry duel as well as a bit of a mid duel. Granted, Gorka's got backup, but that top side fight between the 2 mid laners, that was real close, real spicy there. And that's why Doxa picks this Syndra into APA. So far on the analyst test, there were concerns. Can Doxa hold a candle to APA? Can you really survive all that pressure? So far, the answer, yes. Well played from them. And now I'm looking at Gorica, right? That was the other sort of point we're looking at. That stable rock, that polished player for TSM Amateur, who is also familiar with most of these Resolve members here. Once you do complete the Mirror Mana, which just came in, is your poke going to be sufficient to deal with all this potential engage, this dive ability that Resolve have drafted themselves?
This is kind of answering the questions, as you mentioned, that we were asking on the analyst test. The first one's being, what can TSM do here? Can they handle the pressure? Yes. The other one being, can Resolve continue to push the leads that they find themselves in the early game? And right now, they're very much struggling to be able to continue and push their advantages. They are finally able to break that mid lane outer turret here, but in the last couple of minutes, they haven't been able to find the team fights that they are looking for, and they've been able to slowly but surely find these objectives, but at a pace that I don't think is necessary for them to really expand the lead that they have established. We do see those item breakpoints that we were mentioning earlier that were so important for TSM Amateurs being hit here. The Mirror Mana being completed for Ezreal. That's going to be as well the completed Seraph's Embrace for Doxa here. Double tier stacking, scaling carries here coming in from the side of TSM Amateur, and they have reached those power points.
You know, Icarus, we've been talking a lot in the last little while, about theoreticals, about item power spikes, about, oh, they know that action suggests this and that. But can we be real for a second?
Yeah, let's hear it.
I just want to see a fight at this point. I just want to see a go at it. You've got that Rumble Equalizer. We've not really seen it, do too much yet. Dragon's coming up in 30 seconds. I want to see the team set up for it. Resolve is doing it. They've got the vision down right now, but TSM Amateur, you don't benefit too much from sitting back. Yeah, your Ezreal skills, but at some point you need to run the stat check, the skill check. Are you good enough to win the fight? And now is as good a time as any. You had your item power spike.
Maybe it's not Resolve that we have to worry about being too passive. Maybe it's TSM Amateurs here. We do have that dragon spawning in just about 5 seconds here. APA moving forward, clearing out some wards. Is TSM Amateurs going to even try and contest for this dragon? Instead, it looks like they want to just go for this mid lane wave. Dragon is going to be secured here fairly quick and easy by the side of Resolve, but it is a quick pivot over towards this Baron pit. Some wards in the river will let Resolve know that this one might be started up here.
Why?
They're immediately throwing down pings on it. Is anyone going to come check? The blue trinket will see it. They know this is happening.
Why are they doing this? There was full vision. They just cleared it. Are they that confident? They're taking so much damage right now. Frostburst, half health already before the fight starts. And sure, your Ezreal's got good poke, but okay, well
Andre got caught. They know he's there. Who's going to force this one? Flash forward. That's going to be the Moonfall. Are they trying to continue this one forward? The grind entrance is used, but it's not going to be able to zone anyone out here. Meanwhile, on the backside, everybody's dropping solo on the side of TSM Amateurs. It's a 1-for-1 so far. Fnatic trading his life in order to pick up the Ezreal, but it is the Rumble in the jungle that goes down second here. Set. He is stuck in the pit. He's going to be taking up this Baron for just a second, but it's not going to force him out. Away the big purple word. Syndra gets caught on the top side, and it is Resolve that finds the fight they have been spending the past 10 minutes looking for, and it will be they who are able to secure this Baron.
I know I asked for a fight, but not like this. The Baron, they took
Not
so
like this.
much. That's not a stat check. That's not a skill check. That was a decision-making check. And unfortunately, TSM Amateur, they took a huge risk, and it really didn't pay off. I do want to highlight something that happened off screen, and that was the teleport from PCL into the backline there to make sure that TSM Amateur could not disengage. They got caught, Fnatic forcing that engage forward with that Moonfall, like with that Zhonya's like you called Icarus, and they tried to back off. There was a Dragon's Rage just waiting for them to walk into it, kicked it back in, and Resolve just cracked the game wide open now. They've got Baron for the next 2.5 minutes here, and I want to see them take turrets, because that was something that they didn't manage to do after they took all the other turrets.
And they've been struggling so far to open up this map, and this might be the straw that broke the camel's back, really, in terms of breaking open this game, as you mentioned, RMC. We do also have that, with all this gold lead that is being established by the side of Resolve here, Dragon is spawning in 3 minutes, so it's still a little whiles away, but with 7,000 gold in favor of Resolve here. Look at this fight that can happen in the bottom lane so easily here for APA. He's able to kite out Eclipse. Array just comes over, cleans up that one. Now your Set is down on the side lane. This is going to mean so much pressure being put into the bottom side of the map. I'm expecting this outer turret, there's inner turret to go down for sure, if not the inhibitor as well.
The turrets are incredibly hard to defend post 25 minutes against a Baroned up team. A lot of times you got to be careful of the rotations. There is good vision though from the side of TSM Amateurs, so you can see that they're kind of cutting that good rotation between the mid and bot lanes, but the distance still makes it hard just against Baroned up minions. And where's the wave clear coming from TSM Amateur? It's not the Ezreal, it's the Syndra. And the Syndra doesn't do too well. Magic damage gets reduced significantly by Baron buff onto minions.
They might even have to commit the equalizer just to make sure that this empowered minion wave doesn't take down the spot lane inhibitor if they want to try and contest for this dragon that's coming up in about 2 minutes here. That will mean that the Resolve is on soul point as well here. So once that mountain soul is picked up, if they decide to go for it, it will mean that the siege is only scarier for Resolve, and TSM has to find a way to put up with this in the next couple of minutes if they don't want to let this game slip out of their hands.
We talked about how Mountain Drake changes the terrain in favor of TSM Amateur. What we kind of didn't talk about was the Mountain Soul itself. The fact that you're getting 6% armor and magic resistance per dragon, that's a percentage modifier. When you get the soul itself, it gives you a shield based on your max health. So suddenly, the burst damage that comes through with the Syndra, with the Rumble, the effectiveness is greatly reduced. And even for this Ezreal poke as well, if you cycle the members through, that shield does pop back up, and theoretically, if you do it right, the Ezreal poke drops down greatly in terms of how effective it is in trying to break the siege or siege up on your own. That bot lane turret, as low as it is, with those shields, Resolve can just dive it. Diana's strong enough with that Zhonya's. Winter, the initiates from Winter have been on point as well, and sure, you might not be able to find a flank, but you can just take that turret and walk right back off.
It's all too easy here for Resolve, sitting with a 9,000 gold lead at the end of that Baron power play. 35 seconds on this Mountain Soul spawning onto the map here, and TSM Amateurs is struggling to try and find what whatever ward coverage they can. They know that they have to contest this dragon or else they won't be able to stop the sieging power coming in from Resolve here. And now it is a quick rotation to the mid lane. They're trying to pressure this inhibitor turret here, so they want to try and break something open right before this dragon spawns, but they will be forced to back off. They're going to go back through the enemy jungle here. That's going to be an equalizer actually coming in on the top side of the fight. They're trying to make a full-on play happen on Fnatic here, but he's able to just walk away, and that huge ultimate is not going to be available for the side of TSM Amateur. Meanwhile, on the bottom side, Pancake Lord, he's looking for the 1v1 of his life as well. The Galio has to take the rage kick in order to back away, but the taunt is going to still find its way onto the Lee Sin, so he has to dash away. The flash is not available just by yet. He's re-engaging on top of Gorka, but he is up Creek without a paddle one more time here for the side of Resolve. Meanwhile, he does buy enough time on the hands of Pancake Lord for that Mountain Soul to be secure.
That was a sacrifice worth making, and for TSM Amateur, the cake's a lie. Pie Cake Lord was just there to distract him. Let his team get themselves the Mountain Soul here. That was rough to watch. Equalizer back up though, so I don't mind that Frost Forest kind of burnt the ultimate early. I think they already knew that they weren't going to fight that 5v5. If you can kill the enemy jungler, great, then you can sneak in. If you can't, no big deal. But that Banshee's Veil, such a defensive build coming through from Fnatic. No Nashor's Tooth here, no Death Cap to increase the burst. No, it's Zhonya's, which gives you armor, Banshee's Veil, which gives you magic resist, and both their actives there, or the extra effect, one gives you a spell shield, the other makes you invincible here. Fnatic is looking to be the primary initiator for Resolve.
And so far, he has done a fantastic job. We've seen a couple of team fights that Resolve was able to make for themselves. It was off the back of a flash Moonfall play coming in from Fnatic. I do like to see this jungler that has been struggling a little bit recently to continue to push advantages when his team is ahead, find these aggressive plays, find team fights for his team where he's able to go in and lock down the backline members of TSM Amateur here in game one. Baron is going to be spawning into the map in 30 seconds, and rather than risking it for the biscuit around those inhibitor turrets, Resolve is staying towards this top side of the map, establishing ward coverage, and they want to try and set up for a quick second Baron of the game.
TSM Amateur, this Baron's kind of important because it forces them to ask themselves the question, can we deal with another Baron push? If we cannot, and we're going to lose multiple inhibitors on this, then it's a do or die Baron. You almost have to fight it whether or not you're in a good position to take it. And for now, it doesn't look like they're really too invested in getting there. They are a little bit slow moving out of the mid lane. They don't have good vision. They have to be careful of that flank potentially from PCL, from Fnatic. Even a Leona flank at this point would be real scary.
Keep your eyes on Fnatic as this team fight starts to break out here. He's over the wall of the flash forward. That's going to be the engage. He finds the Moonfall. Two members are being locked up here. The Equalizer into the Zhonya's in order to try and buy as much time as possible for TSM Amateur, but it's not going to be enough. Both supports are going to be going down at the start of this fight. There might have actually been just enough there from Frost Force in order to back away from this fight. Is there going to be a re-engage coming in from TSM Amateur? They find a lot of damage onto Pie Cake Lord. He has to walk away. That's the dash forward. They're trying to find their way onto Array, trying to pick off this Kai'Sa, but the Killer Instinct is still available. Array is so strong. He doesn't even need to use the ultimate, and he still bursts down the top laner of TSM Amateur. But they trade the life of Fnatic. It is a 2-for-2, and the Baron has been dissuaded.
Well played from TSM Amateur there. You're down gold, you're down items, and they still managed to find that in. That Equalizer was absolutely on point. More important to me, though, was Doxa almost killing APA with that Unleashed power. By forcing out APA, yes, it was a 2-for-2. For a while there, it looked like a 4v4 standoff. It wasn't. APA was effectively out the fight. That was a bit of a 3v4 situation there. That nullifies the gold lead they have. For the side of Resolve, you can set up and go back to that Baron, but you already saw what happened once. You know that all those ultimates, they're probably going to be up in time here, and unless you can find some sort of pick yourself, it's risky. It's difficult. Ezreal can just set up. Ezreal can just poke you down. The question is, are they confident enough to try and skill check?
It's so difficult when you feel this far behind in the game. You're down the Mountain Soul. You're down so much gold here. 9,000 still at 34 minutes into this one. For the side of TSM Amateurs to feel like they're going to be able to skill check their opponents here. But when you have the side of Resolve continuously throwing themselves at this Baron, continuously taking this Baron debuff, they will be noticed again on this one, but are they going to be able to rotate in time? Looks like it will not. Equalizer comes out here. This time around, the Baron steal away coming in from Resolve, the sneak away, working out in their favor.
That team's living up to the name. Resolve They decide to do it, they do it. No hesitation there. And that's the difference. TSM Amateur was not expecting them to be quite that fast to burn it down quite that quickly. It's gonna cost them here. And that was a TP from Eclipse to get out of the bot lane. There was a huge wave pushing, and Eclipse saw the collapse. He didn't even try and run out. He just flat out TP'd. That will not be available for this potential Baron split push for Soul in a minute and 15 seconds here. Resolve can always split push with the Baron buff, send, 2-3 members to go and do Elder as well at the same time.
And it just feels like Resolve is taking this game slow and steady. They want to play this game as much by the book as possible. They have the second Baron in their pockets here. They're going to be split pushing on the bottom side of the map with their double AD carry composition being guarded by Fnatic and Winters in the jungle, making sure that this rotation gets caught. If anyone starts to rotate into that bottom lane here, look for the Moonfall here. Not going to be used just quite yet as that bot lane inhibitor is picked up. But oh no, APA dropping down extremely low. Doesn't quite go down there. The equalizer, though, will be there to secure it. That's going to be the teleport coming in from PCL. If they're going to be able to finish off APA, no. It is going to be Doxa that goes, the Eclipse that goes into the backside, but he's not able to finish off the kill. Doxa does not have the ultimate available. Instead, he just has to use the scatter of the weak in order to force Fnatic away from that fight. It is only one kill picked up at the end of the day, but GA has been popped on APA. They just are falling so far behind here, RMC.
You know what's worse? They fell behind. This fight's bad, but look what they're gonna lose for it. You can take Baron, and you can still fight a Baroned up team. You just have to deal with the siege. They get Elder with Baron still ticking. Well, granted, not for very long, but still there. You can't defend against this. You've got an open inhib bot, and it is literally open at this point. You walk in there, you start dying, that's game over.
And with death timers that are so long at this point, I think Eclipse is up to 50 seconds here as we're cressing over that 36-minute mark. You die, as you said, RMC. You are dead for the rest of the game because this game will very quickly be over if Resolve is able to make their way into the base here and find another successful team fight. And it is so difficult for TSM Amateur to feel like they can make a fight happen here because of the Mountain Soul, because of the Elder Dragon, because of this Baron buff that is all just pressuring the map so far. Bot lane inhibitor will be going down, a rotation into the mid lane. They're just going to slowly bleed out TSM Amateur here.
Amateur kind of have to fight this. You don't want to be waiting for those super minions to start pushing. It's do or die. You've got 2 turrets, but they have Elder Drake. This is a prisoner's dilemma. This is brutal.
One Nexus turret goes down. When do you make the play, TSM Amateur? When do you make that fight to save your life? Because you are going to be slowly burning away at this second Nexus. The Baron buff is finally gone. The Solar Filler comes in. That's an engage into the backline. The Equalizer trying to buy time, trying to buy space for TSM here. But PCL, he finds the first kill of the fight. It's going to be returned by Eclipse, but he swiftly falls down as the second Nexus turret is going to be crumpled. And the Elder Dragon starts to erupt. One more Kamehameha blast comes in for the side of Resolve as they pick up game 1 here in Challenger, in Risen Champion Series.
Oh boy, Icarus, that last push there, pushed straight up into our brain, scrambled it around, and you know what? It was a slow start to the series here. Resolve and TSM Amateur took their time, and yes, TSM Amateur lost the game, but they didn't play the early game that bad. That one bad fight should have shafted them, and it kind of didn't. They still really hung into it for a while. But Resolve, they're a team that is very comfortable taking it slow, scaling up. If you don't fight them for that third dragon, well, there's fourth dragon, there's Baron, there's Elder. We'll meet you there eventually. And they just mechanically a little bit better. 6-1-12 on PCL, 8-1-4 on Array. This AD carry truly is a team fighting monster.
We see here just for once the Resolve style play in the game of waiting towards that third dragon of the game is going to be played in their favor. But in order to give you more of a breakdown on that first game of the series here, we're going to throw it back over to the analyst desk. We have DJ, we have Mega Blaziken, and we have Returned waiting for you guys over there.
Welcome back to the analyst desk, ladies and gentlemen. After we watched Resolve take game number 1 over TSM Amateur, a fairly drawn out game there that was fairly defined by draft, gentlemen, as these two teams set out to do very different things in this game.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, when you look at the TSM composition they were put together on blue side, the Rumble, the Set, the Galio, the Syndra, you know that they are going to try to team fight you and nothing else. It is dumb, turn your brain off, blow everything up, hopefully they die kind of team fighting. And it really showed you that TSM wanted to make it through that laning phase, and then on the neutral objectives, on those big team fights that are traditionally very favorable for Resolve, they wanted to bring some firepower. And on the other side, Resolve focused more on that, 2v2, 3v3 skirmishes, the two melee solo laner, or the not two melee. You got the Lee Sin in the top lane, Diana jungle, Lucian mid, things that aren't necessarily traditional Resolve team fighting champions, but they did make it work. Though I do think TSM took the bait a little bit too early on in this game.
Yep. I think that this idea of the comp is good for TSM, especially since they are just getting these five together and are still working out their synergy, and they also have had some issues with their overall team identity. So I think this was a good idea for the composition, but I think they pulled the trigger a little bit too early, should have waited for some of these more objective fights. And some of these fights going poorly for TSM was what ended up kind of getting Resolve ahead, and they Resolve kind of kept that lead for a while with those early fights going poorly for them, especially in that top fight that we saw early on in the game.
And
Yeah,
you mentioned,
and yeah,
yeah, go
and
ahead.
I think you mentioned it. Like, if there is one point where I said that TSM really lost control of this game, it was that top tribush. You could see that there was some. I swear, there is a bounty somewhere for Pie Cake Lord's head on a pike. With how many times that it was just the consistent attempt for TSM to dive top lane to put the Lee Sin behind. But when you noticed where the power actually was on the TSM side, it wasn't in who they needed to be in. Rumble didn't have ulti, they didn't have the big combo fights, and I'll give it to them. It was really close. But when you're thinking about when does TSM want to throw their cards on the table, when do they want to force Resolve into these big fights, it isn't that early on. And Resolve just had the better champions at the time and the better players. And once you fall behind like that in the early game, even if it's only 1.5k, it's always lurking in the back of your head. It's always that looming threat of, sure, we might not have lost the game on this one, but if we make another bad play, now we're like 5k behind, and what do we do from there? So I think it was a little over eager for TSM. Good to see that they still have the gusto to go for those plays, but they got to be a little bit more calculated going forward.
Yeah, got to be a little more calculated there as we do kind of get ready here for game two. So, if we want to talk about calculation, want to talk about changes, what are you kind of looking for here, both of you from TSM Amateur? Again, the game, they set up for something a little different, a little more team fighting, a little more scaling there, and got a little bit behind. Do you think the draft was really the issue? Was it more in the execution? What are we looking for here from them in game two?
I think for this next game, one thing that we want to see more of was getting Frost Forest and Dox on some champions that they can work much better together on. One thing that we saw this game was that the mid lane was not a lot of activities going on, especially with the two mid laners. There was some roams to the lane, but even then, not a lot of activity happening there. I want to see TSM enable Doxa a lot more, but either through with the support or with the jungle picks, just to be able to have more energy going on in that
Mm.
lane because it felt like Doxer really had almost no impact in this game whatsoever. It felt like when things were happening, it was because the rest of his team was getting the fights going, even though, as we said, those fights were a little bit preemptive. But I
Yeah.
think that for TSM, if they want to be able to have more action and more life in this next game, they need to get more resources put into Doxa.
Yeah, and I like the idea behind the TSM comp. It's, you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. You can play these simpler team fights, and as long as your players, are disciplined, know what to do, and these teams are, they should be fine. I think that there are a few pieces here that really didn't fit together. I think the biggest stickler for me is the Galio on support. Not only does it somewhat limit your options in the bot lane, but the combo I was looking for was never really that obvious. I didn't see anything that a Nautilus couldn't have done. I didn't see anything that the Leona takeaway couldn't have done. I didn't see anything that the Alistar couldn't have done. And it kind of also led into that situation where, sure, it's not really doing anything bot lane, but then it never really had the ability to either follow a jungler in, as Rumble's not really living in enemy jungle, and it wasn't able to do many things on mid lane. I mean, I think there was one time where the Galio for TSM walked up into mid and APA said, "Yeah, sup boys, see you later." And you're right. I think it was that they never really enabled any of their strong carries, and that just led to Resolve taking a commanding lead on the early to mid game. So I guess TLDR, I'm fine if they want to run back a nearly identical composition. I want to see the support have a little bit more ability to play the game before 15 minutes. Galio's fun and all, but I don't think this was the right comp for that.
Yep. And I think if you are going to pick Galio, they need to have another person on the team that can much easier set him up. All they really had this game was the set to be able to go in and let Galio stack with him. But unless you're picking a champion that can really get in there and to let Galio kind of stack on top of him, it's pretty hard for Galio to do this. So I think they should either index away from that or be able to pick a champion that can combo with that Galio better because they didn't really have that this game besides kind of the set.
Yeah.
So definitely some things that we can look for here from TSMA, but we focused a little bit here on TSMA. Let's go to the other side here for Resolve and talk a little bit about their performance and how they looked, especially coming off of Challengers Uprising. Again, made it to the semifinals. Felt a little disappointing, I think, probably by their own high standards. How are you feeling about their game one here? Does it look any different to you?
I mean, I'll be honest, it's not the same level of play. Like, you don't approach TSM the same way you're going to approach, Wildcard and all those, but it did look pretty good. I mean, the early game especially, we saw Pi do really well around some of those early top dives. There was some good movement out of the mid jungle duo to make sure that none of these plays for TSM. I mean, hell, even that one fight in top try was turned around because APA in the mid lane and Fan in the jungle were roaming up to that play before it even happened. Resolve did a really good job of keeping TSM from getting the fight that they wanted or that they were looking for. Uh, but like also the individual prowess. Obviously, Pi did well. Bot lane randomly, Array just gets a solo kill onto Golrika, saying this is my job now. Um, that was kind of fun, but I think the one point I do have to be critical of Resolve on was once they got that early game lead, especially around that, 15 to 25-minute mark, they really didn't do a lot with it. I wanted to see them take that extra step to use, the prio they have out of the big Lucian, the big Diana, and the big Lee Sin. Start playing for enemy jungle. Start suffocating TSM out of the game because you notice, especially around the oh, I think we had more colorful ways of describing it in our analyst desk call, but the bold Baron attempt from TSM when they were looking for the comeback, the fight that happened afterwards was really really close. Resolve had the advantage going into it, and Resolve I think had the better play at the end of the day, but it was too uncomfortable as a Resolve supporter. You almost had the feeling that everything Resolve had done to that point was going to go to waste, and when you have the leads like you do in the early game that Resolve was able to bring to the table, I want to see them put teams in the dirt. TSM are not a team that is a championship contender. You gotta be able to knock these teams out thoroughly. Do I think that Resolve's gonna win game two? Yeah, I think it's gonna be a 2-0. But I want to see them do it convincingly.
Yeah, we saw a lot of windows for TSM that they did not capitalize on, but even those late fights toward the end of the game, we were seeing 1-for-1s and 2-for-2s. With the position that Resolve was in, that should never happen. Resolve kind of just felt like they were waiting for dragons, waiting for objectives every single time to make fights happen, but between those spaces, they were not really pushing their lead, just kind of sat on their laurels and just kind of waited it out. And against better teams, that might not work out as well as it did here.
Mhm.
Yeah, certainly could be the case. You mentioned they were waiting for objectives. I do want to ask you two, what do you think kind of was the call there from TSMA as they ran over to that Baron? I know that Resolve was on the Dragon at the time, but it just looked like they were kind of trying to make something happen in a little bit of desperation at that point in the game.
I mean, I don't know if I can emulate their comps perfectly. 'Cause I don't know how casual you guys are with swearing on this stream, but it was. I think it came to a point in the game where TSM realized, look, we aren't getting any better chances. Resolve are not going to randomly flub a team fight setup. They're not going to randomly flub an objective. So we need to do something that perhaps they're not expecting, get them uncomfortable, and while they're off balance, try to make that fight work. I don't think it was executed perfectly. I think, the way that they set up the flank, the way that Gorico was just deleted at the start of the fight, and the way that Resolve kept calm while approaching that Baron was all perfectly fine. But, you know, at some point, you got to pick a mountain to die on. And I don't think that TSM was going to get a better opportunity the entire game long.
Yep, I agree. They had to go for something at some point, and they figured good time as any. Resolve had been going for all these objective fights, so they wanted to bring it to them, fight on their terms, but didn't go the way they wanted to.
All right. Well, we are hearing that TSM has elected to stay on the blue side for this game number two. Still waiting for them a couple of minutes to get ready for that game two draft. But with that knowledge in place, and actually, as they say that, Looks like they are kind of ready for draft, hopping back in here. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut you off here. We will send it over to our casters, and hopefully TSMA were listening here to our analysts and have found some answers to resolve in this game too. RMC Icarus, take it away.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we're going to be hopping straight into draft here for the second game of this series between TSM Amateur and Resolve. Ziggs off the table immediately here. Once again, RMC. We're not at all surprised to see this champion being taken away.
No, because I mean, you heard it from the analyst desk. Both, Mega Blaziken as well as Returned, they didn't think that the draft was necessarily the issue here from TSN Amateur. At least not till the very last phase there when they picked the Galio. So we could very well see a salty run back in the draft here. So far, identical to that first draft.
So far, it is everything going to be coming up the same here as you mentioned. But yeah, I don't really think that there was necessarily anything that was in particularly too blaringly weak outside of that Galio. And a lot of it just came down to the fact that both teams played very passively and both teams didn't go for big team fights. So when you did have those 2 or 3 large engages, they were fairly close from both sides here, but it was just Resolve that had that little bit of an early game lead, that had that extra bit of gold, and every time they took an extra successful team fight, as Return said, you go from 1.5 thousand to 5,000 to 9,000 gold in the lead, and slowly slipping away from TSM Amateurs. Might not have been the champion picks, and might have just been they need to be finding more aggressive plays for themselves and not just giving everything over to Resolve, as we saw throughout the early game of game 1.
And you know what? Bad's completely the same. Rumble first pick as expected here. Now, Mega Blaziken did, or no, sorry, it was Returned who did note that PCL had some sort of bounty on his head. I mean, the Pie Cake Lord himself, cupcakes, that's what he used to bait traps. Certainly baited TSM Amateur. So I'm curious now to see if they do opt to pick that set still. Because I feel like if you want something aggressive to dive here, maybe not the set pick, maybe something a little bit better, or maybe you just stop going top. Like I said, I want to see action mid. Mega Blaziken agreed, not a lot of activity mid. That's a man I respect right there. We're on the same page. Start gacking that mid lane.
And it's all just coming up the same here in draft as well here. I want to see, really this is where I expect we're going to start seeing some differentials. This is going to be the second phase of the blue side picks here. I'm surprised to see that the Ezreal isn't the priority coming in from Resolve, instead going right back towards that Lucian Diana. The Ezreal, again, it's all, they're just copy pasting the last draft. It really is the salty run back.
The Ezreal, I don't think was really an issue for Resolve there. Array seemed to just have a really solid grasp, and we saw even in the later team fights, Gorica wasn't safe, right? The Diana, the Lucian, the Kai'Sa, they were just all so mobile, not to mention the flanks from PCL, the ability to just somehow sprint right into the backline as well. I think they're okay giving that one over. Here we go. Here's a change. We picked the Renekton instead of the Lee Sin here, and I personally am a fan of this. I know Lee Sin is super meta right now. He's super mobile. He's great at pushing, but I just feel like Renekton just is heavier pound for pound in terms of a fight.
And it is a much better matchup in the early laning phase for PCL into the set as well. As long as you're holding on to that stun and you're making sure you use the empowered stun in order to take off that shield away from the set, that takes away a lot of the trading potential for Eclipse on the top side of the map. Again, we're going to see the Varus being banned out here, the Jace one more time. I would personally like to see a Kai'Sa taken off the table here from TSM instead of going towards that Kalista ban, in order to take away such an aggressive mid to late game style champion out of the hands of Resolve and out of the hands of Gorica. Or Array.
Yeah, I fully agree. The Kalista, I mean, it's scary. Yes, you do have to worry about that Fate's Call potentially coming through, picking up somebody, just chucking into the backline. That could mess up Rumble's day. It also makes it harder to get picks on a single target, but it's also safer for the Ezreal in the late game here. And you know what? We're both wrong, Chris. It's neither. They're just gonna ban the Leona instead, which was an issue. But hey, Renekton's still on the table, and Renekton would fulfill exact same role as Leona last game.
It's going to be that double dash, slice and dice, call it Mario Kart, whatever you will, in order to get into the backline here. Dive Buddy to help out this Diana as well. I do think it will provide somebody that Set can pick up and throw out of these team fights once he does pop that Dominus, however. So you have to be careful if you're looking at these short range 80 carries from the side of Resolve, as the Kai'Sa has been locked in one more time for the hands of Array here. Curious to see, will TSM really mix up their last couple of picks here? Are they going to continue to do the salty run back, continue to go for these same champions that we saw in the first game of the series, as the Galio will be locked in? So that one will be the continuation. Instead, though, the Viego going to be the first and only mix-up here for the side of TSM Amateur.
You know what? The Viego wasn't what I was expecting. It does give you a bit more carry potential here, but if anything, the lane potentially could get a little bit rougher. Viego has good sustain, does well into majors traditionally because they are fairly mobile. But into the likes of Lucian, it's kind of risky. Early on, Lucian is liable to just utterly dominate that lane. You throw a Diana into the mix, that's going to be plenty of kills. Or Resolve, hey, if they're feeling cheeky, you can always put the Renekton into the Viego as well. That is a really rough matchup to deal with. And Lucian against Set, well, that's a skill matchup. As long as you dodge the grabs, you're fine. If you don't, you get grabbed. Well, that doesn't end too well for the Lucian here. So we'll have to see. The Galio, though, that one thing that Viego doesn't bring is still no AoE CC. Where's the lockdown? Where's the Galio? The Galio, pardon me, is the only thing there. It didn't work last time, and it feels like they're forcing it again this time.
It really does bring up a lot of questions. That return had, and something that we were still wondering about is whether or not this Galio is really the best pick for that support role. We see the Nautilus is locked in for Resolve instead of the Leona, so same idea here for that supportive role for the side of Resolve, where you're going to have a champion that can go in, lock down the backline members of TSM Amateur here. But imagine if that champion had been taken away from TSMA, if they had been able to pick up that Nautilus and then force Resolve onto the likes of an Alistar that doesn't necessarily have the same synergistic effects with Kaisa. Sure, it is still somebody who likes to go forward and use their body, but Alistar has kind of fallen off in terms of how much priority there is on him in comparison to Leona and Nautilus, just because the how weak he can be and how much he can be punished in the early stages of the game in comparison to Leona Nautilus.
Totally agree here. And last game we were watching for mid jungle synergy coming through here. Um, I do want to keep an eye because I feel like Viego for Doxa potentially works a little similarly, I guess, to the Syndra with the Rumble. But the bot lanes where my eyes are going to be drawn now in the early game because we saw Array versus Gorica, the 1v1, the surprise Void Seeker there. With the Nautilus, though, with the Galio, again, you can play very, very aggressively there. And if I actually personally favor Nautilus dives a little bit more than Leona dives, just because the anchor gets you in, even if you miss the target with the depth charge combo as well. And I kind of want to see the junglers, especially for TSM amateur side, for Frost Forest here. Start on your top side, start at your blue with this rumble, path down to that bot side. Try and get things flowing your way. It's not perhaps the most conventional gank path, but at the same time, I think the element of surprise will do very well considering how aggressively Araya interplayed.
I do want to go back to visit what we were talking about in the last game of this series here. Who are we putting the onus on in order to make the plays in the early game happen here? Where are we looking to for either one of these teams in terms of their aggressive winning lanes, and who's looking to just kind of farm up and play it more safely?
Hold up. That might be a Viego top. That does change quite a bit if that is a Viego top here. You know what? If it's a Viego top into Renekton, I think we look top lane for plenty of action here. Pie Lord and Eclipse. That's not a lane where you just kind of sit back and farm here. That's one where you try and assert your dominance, take over, especially if you are Pie Lord on this Renekton.
Yeah, and you can always look towards the top side. We saw TSM do it all game last game. They were trying to constantly shut down Pie Lord, but with a Renekton, it's a little bit harder to play as defensively. You don't have that safeguard in order to back away to your own minions. So Slice and Dice will be able to kind of get him out if Viego ever positions himself on the opposite side of this Renekton. But it does come down to a lot more skill matchup, a lot more how do you play out the very nuanced things in this lane here. And with Viego, you also do have just a little bit of CC, that micro stun at the very start that can help secure that this Rumble can come in here. Maybe not as helpful as the set with the pullback, but it is still somebody that this Rumble can try and punish. And hopefully we see this time around, if TSM Amateur wants to put some emphasis on the top side of the map, that they're going to be able to actually make some work happen here against Pike Lord.
And the mid lane matchup that changes too, right? Set into Lucian. We touched a little bit about it, how it's dangerous for Lucian, but if as long as you position appropriately there, you use that relentless pursuit to properly space, it should go in Lucian's favor. I want to talk about jungle mid duos. When your Rumble Set versus your Diana Lucian here, and I think I actually favor the Set Rumble a little bit because Diana and Lucian, if Set's healthy, that's a difficult target to burst down. Whereas if APA ever gets caught out, if Frost Force is anywhere nearby, those should be kills. And I'm hoping, I'm praying, Icarus, that they hear me and Mega Blaziken here, and that we see more mid lane focus, more mid lane pressure. We wanted to see the synergy coming through from the Winthrop duo. You've got to bring it right now, and you've got to try and force Fnatic and APA to test their synergy together, because we didn't see too much of it last game.
It is going to be difficult to make that mid lane synergy happen, though, with the Lucian who can dash away, as we mentioned earlier, in order to keep himself safe away from this Rumble, away from the set. That melee matchup into the Lucian is going to mean that Doxa will get pushed around just a little bit throughout the early stages of this game, as it looks like my camera decided to kill itself one more time here. We'll reset that really quick and hope it works. Hi, glad to be back. But we're going to go ahead and throw it over to a quick spectator delays. We got 2 minutes before these two teams head into the Rift one more time here. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you vote in the chat who you think is going to walk away with the victory in Game 2 here. Also, shout outs to our sponsor, U.DG. They've been helping us get set up with this tournament, so go ahead and give their site a check out if you guys are looking for any kind of build paths help. I know that U.GG is the website that I use when I'm trying to figure out what to build on the random Diana jungle that I play myself. But with that, we'll see you guys in just a couple of minutes. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Hopping into game 2 here. We got the run back to end all run backs between these two teams here. As almost every single champion on the Rift is going to be the same. We do have a Nautilus and a Renekton joining us this time around, as well as the Viego on the side of TSM Amateur and RMC. One more time, I want to throw it back to you here. The 5-point setup. Where are we looking for these junglers to be going?
Well, in terms of the jungle here, like I said, I want to see Frost first actually start in the top side here. Leave the cupcake alone in the top lane, man. That is not just any cupcake. That is the cake lord. Gank bot instead. The top ganks really didn't work. And for Fnatic here, I mean, they started top side. They pretty much ran the full salty run back. Yeah, you've got a Renekton top side a little bit instead of the Lee Sin. But for the most part, I expect to see the same thing. The Diana top looking to try and punish bot if Gorica and Dawnbray don't respect it. Or maybe just throw a cheeky gank mid at level 3, wrap around, take Scuttle, go mid. You probably won't kill Doxa, but if you can set him behind, that's certainly helpful for the Lucian.
I've always been a huge fan of these cheesy early ganks. I actually think that level 2 junglers go really under noticed in current metas these days, just because of how quickly you can go from a red buff start into that top side lane and suddenly Eclipse is set super far behind. Because Diana, you do have access to that lunar rush at level 2 if you decide to opt into it, and that's a double dash that you can have so early on in the game. Could really set up the lane for the top side for PCL here, but instead it is going to be both junglers starting on the bottom side of the map here. No leash coming in from either bottom lane as well, instead immediately going to lane, trying to get that lane coverage, but the bottom lane will be shoving out in favor of TSM Amateurs to begin with.
Yeah, that should indicate here to resolve that TSM Amateur probably it might be a little bit slower, can be matched here. Fnatic, actually opting for full clear. I was surprised. I agree with you. I think, if you're going to start bot side there, you're looking for a cheese gank top. You can go level 3, buff to buff, 3 camp it to start, and then you get some cheese on that very, very squishy Viego here. Can still potentially do that if you just go red and then rush top.
Curious to see what happened that the bottom lane. Oh, that's a melee minion to the back line there. I was confused for a second why Gorica and Dawnbray weren't level 2 when they decided to take that trade there, but it's because they missed out on just one of the melee minions, found its way into the backside of that wave there. Is top side, we're looking around some heavy trading going on both side lanes here. And so far, it's a really scrappy early game coming in. Great dodge away from Always Plan Ahead. I want to see where these first few ganks are going to be coming in as we do see Fnatic heading towards that top side.
Gonna come on top. You have to be careful when you're shoving that aggressively.
Ooh, that's going to be the flash. That's going to be engaged. It's not going to be able to reset on the lunar, but one more auto attack from Fnatic will secure the first blood there for the side of Resolve.
I didn't think that was going to go through when the Crescent Strike missed from Fnatic. They brute forced that. Flash is blown 2 for 1, but first blood for the Renekton is pretty massive. That top lane matchup, you don't want to let that Renekton get ahead, and now both top laners TPing back in. Fnatic, this is your call to just regank topside.
Yeah, with no flash, no teleport available on the side of Eclipse here, PCL has to use his teleport as well just to make sure you can catch that wave that is crashing on top side of the map. Meanwhile, Always Plan Ahead will be absorbing his wave in the middle lane with a rotation coming in from the jungler from the support of TSM. They will secure themselves a double scuttle start for TSM Amateurs here. So you do lose out on the first blood on the top side, but it does mean that Fnatic is going to be missing out on one of the scuttle crabs.
Really good response there to seeing Fnatic run up and try and gank that lane. And now that top side, Eclipse dropping that control ward, fully secured there. And we've already seen Eclipse starting to win this trade a little bit in isolation there. That's going to be fairly nice. One thing you do have to keep in mind with Renekton, though, is you can brute force ganks like this with the stun.
Yeah, he has the Ruthless Predator available still. There it is. The AoE stealth has been coming in from the Viego, so that's going to be down for this continuation of this fight. He's doing his best to cut out the Renekton. He's going to be able to keep himself alive for just a little bit longer, but he goes down. PCL still alive here. He is not going down just quite yet. Finally, the flash forward coming in from Frost Force is going to be able to find that kill, but not until you've lost the life of Doxa, who is teleported into this fight as well. APA here as well. Everyone is so low. Another game of inches here, RMC, and it is still Resolve that is fighting their leads.
Oh no, Icarus, I'm getting flashbacks to game 2, game 1.
Just like game 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit early. I think it was 6 or 7 minutes when Resolve found that those 4 kills in that mad scramble they had nearer the bot side of the map. But or top side actually, I think it was last game too. So yeah, pretty much a complete replay right now. That is absolutely brutal to watch. And now for the side of TSM Amateur, your top side of the map is not territory that you necessarily want to retread anytime in the near future. And more importantly, the mid lane now is firmly in APA's hands. 2-0-1 on this Lucian, picking up a cull as well, because you know what? He's won the lane enough that he can just invest for the future.
Yeah, and that makes this Lucian even scarier. A lane bully alongside this 2-0 Fnatic Diana jungle, who, again, in the last game had the same exact lead for himself, finds the Hextech Alternator and the Blasting Wand for himself. They're going to be putting out so much damage throughout the early game, and it just feels like Resolve, they didn't really switch up their game plan too much here. They've done the exact same thing that they did in the last game of the series, and they are once again just finding success. I do want to see, now that this dragon has spawned onto the map, Resolve try and force these objectives a little bit harder in their favor, because in the last series it stalled out quite long, considering how much of an early lead Resolve was able to find for themselves in these first few minutes of the game.
I agree with you, Chris. I would like them to do it. Actually, I was gonna say, but I don't think they will. As I say that, though, they are pinging it. They are starting it up here.
Yes, they're listening.
Yeah, apparently they're going for this. Phosphorus, no ultimate here, so this is a pretty good point for Resolve.
Ooh, that is going to be the engage coming into the support of Resolve here. He has to flash away. He's going to be going down to the hands of Gorka, but this could be the return kill coming in from the side of Resolve. They're going forward. There's no engage yet coming in from the Diana. The Moonfall misses completely, but Always Plan Ahead is able to zone Gorka back into his side of the map there, picks up a killing spree for himself, and immediately they rotate back towards the Dragon.
Like the ADC flash in on Ezreal, but it left you no escape routes, and unfortunately for Gorica, you get the kill, you get dropped instead. That's not worth it. It's a support for an AD carry. Your AD carry is going to be missing some waves in CS here, but hey, Resolve, you know what? They didn't get the dragon, and in terms of dragon stalling, at least got them off the dragon. Is it worth?
It got them off the dragon, but you do lose a lot of that CS on Gorica. It was picked up for the side of Frost Force there, so getting him towards that level 60 now has access to that equalizer. Top side on the map, I do want to point out, Dominus used there by PCL, trying to find the solo bola onto Eclipse, but is unsuccessful. But for now, it has been a disengage coming in there from TSM Amateur. They're able to ward off some of this aggression from Resolve, but it just feels like a repeat, as we keep mentioning. We're not seeing any aggressive plays. We're not seeing any winning lanes really here for the side of TSM Amateur.
For TSM Amateur, I'm still looking at this Rumble here. You can fall behind on the Rumble, but with that Hextech Ultimator, with that Equalizer there, if you find a target, squishy or not, you can burn right through them at this point in the game. And the other point I'm kind of looking at here, I've kind of given up on the Frost Forest Doxa combo. I'm looking at Eclipse now, because this Viego has been doing really well. Got ganked early twice, down 0-2-1, still winning the lane. Yes, the Bramble Vest has been picked up by PCL. That will cut some of the healing, but I think it's still strong enough. And you can see that the two of them are able to zone out Fnatic. They do get themselves a Herald here, and they're not just letting things go unanswered.
I'd like to note that besides being down 2 deaths in the lane, he is still going up in CS. He is still out CSing and out trading PCL in a lot of these situations. We saw the Dominus getting used, and still it's TSM Eclipse is able to heal right back up to full. He gets back to base, and now he's going to be working towards that Divine Sunder, which I think is just such an almighty powerful item at the moment in this patch of the game, that when you have double Eclipse items coming in from the side of TSM Amateur, it is something that you have to be worried about once they hit those item power spikes. First dragon of the game being secured here from Resolve, stuck under no vision, being placed in that pit by TSM. So will be that little bit again of that early aggression coming in for Resolve here. They're going to be trying to push this game at a little bit faster pace, which we needed to see after this last game.
Yeah, and props to Gorica for throwing that. I believe it was blind. They didn't really have vision, so it's just instinct that, hey, maybe the dragon's being taken there. They don't quite secure it. And for them, again, like I said, they can sit back and scale a little bit at this point. Analyst Desk said it as well. They don't want to see just random fights. They want to see more measured setup fights, potentially around objectives. So TSM AM, take a seat, take a back seat, chill for a little bit. Resolve, on the other hand, with the lead that they get, wait, actually?
Ooh, so much damage coming out by APA here. Double flash is coming in. The double shot will find true onto Doxa. 4-0-1 APA. He is on a rampage.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm looking at Fnatic to accelerate the pace of the game. Scratch that. Let's go with APA, because he just did a 1v1 against the set here with this Lucian. Is now 4 2-0. And now this, I gave up on Frost Forest and Doxa. I want to see Fnatic and APA show them how the mid jungle duo is supposed to run here with the engage, the initiate, the burst that can come out of a Diana. You lock them in place and Lucian just gets to tap away on targets there. It should be an easy kill. There is nobody really tanky enough to survive when you can burn down that set.
Ooh, Equalizer being used on the top side of the map. PCL is able to dash away from that one. He's dropping down extremely low, though. Has to flash and use the Dominus chest to keep himself alive there. Frost Forest, a great opportunity to gank in order to force those out of PCL on the top side of the map.
PCL really not having a good game this time. I thought, you switch for that Renekton, you get a little bit more lane pressure, a bit more strength in that skirmish. Well, color me wrong. He's not having a good time. He's getting bullied. And we have to remember the Viego was a counter pick. They saw the Renekton in already and they went, okay, this is our answer to it. Now, mid lane, we did see the solo kill. The supports are hovering around mid again. And with Fnatic in the area, maybe we get some action here. Dawnbree got spotted.
Oh no, that's going to be the support. He gets engaged on by the bottom lane and mid laner of Resolve. The Ignite is dropped. He's not going to be able to walk away from this when he gets picked up one more time by APA 5-0.
This Galio pick, buddy. Like, it's just, it ain't it right now. I almost want you to just sit back and, hit that level 6ers. Yeah, level 5. You don't even have the hero's entrance here. Get that. And so much more impactful on the map. Will be so much easier for you to roam. Resolve now, potentially looking for that topside dive. We saw TSM AM try it time and time again last time. This time, no one's here, actually. They did back off and, jungle catch.
Ooh, maybe a little bit of over-aggression coming in from Resolve here. That's going to be the re-engage. The Moonfall comes out. They're trying to burst out Frost Force. He goes down to the hands of Winston, but it is going to be picked up in return. Fnatic falls to the hands of TSM Amateur. There comes out the showstopper, and the grand entrance is there to follow. APA shut down, picked up by Eclipse.
This is a Viego right here. It doesn't matter how far behind you are as a Viego. Well, even if you're ahead, you dominate, you find one kill, and suddenly you are that person. Fnatic's ahead, great, I'm Fnatic now. APA's ahead, just need to kill him. And suddenly I'm 6-1 into Lucian, just wrecking everybody's face here. Eclipse is becoming a problem. I'm loving it. And the question is, what is Resolve going to do about it? Do you start throwing gank after gank after gank up there to try and slow this Viego who will scale? Or do you just leave it on an island, try and snowball your other lanes ahead? APA, really solid state, but who hasn't been receiving ganks here, Icarus? Array.
And that's actually been really in favor of, I think, Gorica here. He has been able to finish up his Divine Sunder as well off of that last back. A great cancel on that recall for Array as well, who's going to have to shove out this wave. He was not going to be able to get a reset in time here with no teleport in order to be in position 15 to 10 seconds before this dragon spawns on the map. So this could be the TSM Amateur team fight that they want to set up around the second Drake in this bottom side river.
Already seen how they kind of want to play this in the river here. Doxa to initiate with this set, get into the backline, get Dawnbree in the midst of these targets here. And Hero's entrance not available for this dragon for sure. It's got roughly maybe about a minute and a half, 2 minutes before the cooldown is off here. But if you can just, get into there, Justice Punch your way in, catch multiple targets, doesn't even have to be the backline. Anybody at all, keep them on the equalizer. That gives Eclipse the chance to just absolutely pop off, kill one person, and just start jumping over and over, killing people left and right.
There will be teleports available for both top laners as this dragon is spawning onto the map right now. It is going to be an Ocean Drake. Ooh, with the Colon coming out, though, that's going to be chunking out. Dawnbree so extremely low. Great heads-up play coming in by always plan ahead in order to try and set themselves up for this dragon fight. It is going to mean some early teleports coming in from both top laners here. Ooh, engaged, not quite finding true. The equalizer comes out. They're just chunking away at Array. He's dropping down so low, and it is Resolve that has to back away here. PCL, you got no team, brother. You're going to be going down. Viego in the backline finds one. The Nautilus, that's going to be 2 kills picked up here from TSM Amateurs. They're going forward. This is going to be Eclipse's time to shine. He finds a second kill for himself. Is he going to keep going? Does not look like it with that mid lane turret still up and available, but you said this Viego's becoming a problem, and he shows up in this second fight.
Forest, absolutely huge equalizer. It looked a bit like a whiff, but it was just really corralling everybody off, and PCL kind of stuck over the wall a little bit late to the party, paid the price. TP coming in from APA here.
Ooh, there's going to be a 1v1 on the bottom side of the map.
Done it
So
before.
low from Doxa. The Haymaker putting in work, though. Flash is not
Oh.
available for either one, and you can't be making those kinds of play, Doxa.
You say that Doxa can't be making those plays. APA shouldn't have won that. He teamed right into Doxa, and that should have been a wipe there. Yeah, the rip buff counted, but APA just playing clean right now. 7-1 and 2 Lucian. The Essence Reaver gonna be coming in real soon here, and Doxa already can't deal with him. Eclipse, though. I feel like Eclipse might actually be able to handle APA, and that is the lane assignment I want to start seeing sent over. Send Doxa up. Yeah, it's a bad matchup, but at this point, is it really worse than having to handle a very, very fed Lucian?
It's really difficult to put these melee solo laners into the sideline versus APA because he is just so far ahead here. He's working towards that Essence Reaver. He's accelerated himself a whole item ahead of Doxson. So, you know, yeah, you have to try and put this Vega on the side lanes in order to deal with the fed solo laners from Resolve here. Meanwhile, PCL, that's a 0-3 Renekton. Sure, it's not the best matchup for a set in terms of champion viability, but it is where you're going to give Doxa the space in order to catch back up in this game versus APA, who's just willing to use the culling on the minion wave here in order to crash that wave and get his reset here in order to reset towards his middle top side of the map.
Taken down, drop top side here, and forces the flash out of PCL.
Yeah, that's just going to be a couple of ultimates forced on the top side of the map. Rift Herald also going to be able to pick up the brick on the top half of this map as well. Top lane turret will be going down. Another chunk of gold being donated into the pockets of Eclipse here. So it feels like TSM Amateur just putting everything they can into this Viego.
Yeah, rightfully so, right? Eclipse is popping off. Now, Icarus, I've got to take, umbrance is one of the statements you made. You point out PCL is 0-3 and Doxa, wants to match up there. Doxa is also 0-3 right now. That's still, it's kind of dicey, but like you rightly said, it's a matter of picking your poison at this point. And like the reason why I want to see Eclipse match up into APA is more just to shut APA down here. The Viego is only 4-2. Isn't as strong, and if we look at the gold here, is down actually significantly from that Lucian, but ultimately Viego has burst with the Divine Sunderer. You've also got the plated steel caps to nullify some of the damage here. It's actually not a bad matchup. Doxa might get dove. Will get dove here.
Well, RMC, this is why I'm not a color caster. This dive comes out on the top side. Doxa getting chunked out, blown up. Fnatic is able to pick up that one. It's going to be the top side turret going down as well. Cleanly executed by 3 members of Resolve here. But in mid lane, though, they are going to be picking up a lot of damage onto this middle turret here. Gorka dashing forward isn't going to be able to finish off too much damage on this mid lane outer turret. And now with Fnatic here, they're going to have to back away.
Outside though, Eclipse was left completely unattended, and Frost Forest off screen actually zoned out PCL 1v1 there. Right now, I want to say the top laners, but Dox is a mid laner. Set and Renekton, they don't get to play the game. Wherever you are, where you're gonna get bullied, that's where they're gonna look to try and punish you here with APA, with Eclipse, with Frost Forest, with Fnatic. You don't get to play the game, and it's rough for you. But at least you're still in the game. People are interacting with you. The AD carries right now, for the most part, have been completely silent. Array 0-1 has not gone into pretty much any of the action. And Gorica at 1-1-2 has the lowest KP right now of the team.
And this is kind of another case of what we saw in the last game as well. You have a couple of members, one player on each side that really is just playing weak side, playing in order to absorb the pressure for their team. I think in the last game, it was PCL doing it on the Lee Sin, and then again, this time around, Doxa, or last game, it was Gorica that was absorbing a lot of that pressure and just playing very safe on the bottom side of the map, besides that one outplay that we saw. But again, we're seeing another engage coming in here in the mid lane. Resolve is able to start this one off with a great hook coming in from Winters, but he has to flash away the equalizer, dissuading everyone on the side of Resolve from continuing this one forward. Dawnbrave clashes over the wall. He finds the first kill of this fight with that Duran's taunt, and he's going to be able to pick up the only kill of this team fight as the rest of Resolve backs away. The Colin comes out, though. A little bit of an overstep coming in from Gorica, and he's going to be forced to just clear out this wave and reset.
Matter. They got the pick. They're getting the dragon here, Icarus. The overstep is only really going to cost a back, and that's about it. And huge props to Frost Forest on this Rumble right now. The equalizers have been massive. They've been on point, and they've been unassisted. It's not like we're getting that taunt into the equalizer. Dawnbrave's taunt came out after the equalizer was done, and I don't know how many more times Frostforce can find these good ultimates here. He's putting in so much work. Good news for him though, you're getting Cloud Dragons as well, and that at least increases the amount of equalizers he puts down. More equalizers equals more chances to get good plays.
I actually think that Winsole is one of the most underrated Dragon Souls. Everyone likes to talk trash on it, but we can also keep in mind the movement speed that you're going to be getting. Viego with that resetting ultimate, if Eclipse is able to pop off in the backline, every time he looks for another one of those Heartbreakers, he's going to get a burst of movement speed to chase down his next target. So this is really setting up for a Winsole win, I think, if TSM amateurs are able to continue to make picks like that throughout this mid game and continue to get priority fights right before these dragons spawn, and a great play overall there from TSM amateur.
For Resolve too, it'll be massive if they get that Cloud Soul for Array specifically, because then all the ability in the world won't help as well. At that point, you just run him down. Killer Instinct already gives you that instant gap closer there, and then you can run down even better. Despite the fact that Resolve has been losing out in the last couple of trades, last couple of fights here, they are still up in gold, and that speaks volumes right now to, first of all, APA, who's who's almost double Doxa's gold right now. That is an absolutely huge marker, but also to the fact that they're able to find gold on multiple members, make sure they're ahead here. And as long as they don't fall behind for Resolve, we've seen them. Yeah, their early gameplay has been a little, shall we say, sloppy so far, but their late gameplay last game, you know, when they decided, okay, it's third Dragon time, we start making the plays, they were quite clean in extending the fights out, not letting TSM Amateur get those nice front-to-back setup fights that they're looking for with their composition.
And I'm still watching Resolve to see what team fights are they able to get on their terms. It feels like a lot of the times, both of these teams aren't looking for hyper-aggressive plays. They're not looking to make fights happen unless there is some kind of objective they can play around. We do have another Baron being started up here from TSM, as I have flashbacks to the last game of the last time we saw TSM Amateur start this one up unwarranted and without their full setup. That's going to be a turn coming in, though. Shield of Duran comes in and stalls time from PCL, but the Baron has not been backed away from just quite yet. Frost Force is down extremely low. They have to back away from this one, and just like that, Resolve, they stop the attempt without having to commit much besides the Dominus and the Culling. But hold on, that's a great equalizer, zoning everybody into the board right there. But at the Moonfall, it comes true. The Zhonya's is popping over to buy time for Fnatic, but it is so much damage coming in from APA here. The reset from Array, he goes in with the Killer Instinct. He's trying to find his way onto the backline, but APA has not been touched, and it is Pie Cake Lord that finds another two. And just like last game, the Salty run back, Baron included in this package, as they, once again, we have an ace around an early game Baron attempt.
Feelings right now, Icarus. Same place, same problem, but this time, to be fair to TS Amateur, they didn't necessarily misplay that. That equalizer was great. What I think was the biggest problem was Eclipse. He's your carry. He's been the person carrying the fights. Where was he? It wasn't the center of the screen, just at the very edge of the screen. We saw him fighting APA, and unfortunately, APA got the better of that trade, and that was why when we saw APA get back into the fight, he just ran everyone over. Doxa, you don't win that 1v1, you don't win that 1v2.
He blew up before he even realized that he was on screen there. Just kind of casually walks up and gets blown up. The Baron will be secured here by the side of Resolve, but as you were mentioning, RMC, same place, same time. Resolve gets the same reward here, which is going to be that ace, is going to be a Baron for them at 23 minutes into this game here. So this might be, again, the situation where we see Resolve really start to break open this map, look towards some of those inner turrets with this Baron power play, now that they've established themselves a 5,500 gold lead, and they continue to push their advantages.
And you know what? We said it was a salty run back. I didn't expect it to be this salty here. Dragon, there is a slight difference this time, and that is that Resolve doesn't have as many Drakes, so it's unlikely that they get themselves a soul anytime soon. It's really, really long. They've only got one dragon so far, so I want to see them focus the turrets instead. They managed to crack the inhibitor last time. They got the Baron in game 1, and that's very, very important. If they crack an inhibitor, suddenly it's so much easier for them to threaten once again. That culling, holy!
No fear in the eyes of APA as he dashes forward, throws out the Culling, and chunks 2 members to half on the side of TSM Amateur. 5 seconds before this dragon spawns as well. This one has to be given over if you're TSM. AM here because you cannot contest just how powerful this Lucian is. 3.5 completed items, with 3 of those items being BF sword components. So much just flat 80 damage coming in from APA.
You just have to double check that culling because that looked ridiculous. It shoots 34 shots for a total of 5,129 damage before resistances. I'm looking at Gorika's health. Actually, no time for that. Fight breaking out.
Oh no, that's going to be Frost Force. He has to drop the Equalizer just to try and buy himself some time. The Zanyas has popped as well, but Fnatic is able to get into the backline. He's able to pick up the first kill of this fight. Dombre goes down. It looks like only the Galley will be sacrificed as the sacrificial gargoyle there. He goes down 1-0 at the end of the day.
Worth, I mean, you're a support. You die, everybody else gets out. You've done your job. Baron's still pushing though, and again, 5,000 damage. Let me see if I can get this in before a fight breaks out here. Gorika's only got 1,900 health. That culling is going to be enough to kill Gorika, and the tankiest member right now is Doxa at 2,300. Half a culling is still enough to kill Doxa.
If he lands the whole thing, resistance is not included. It's a complicated math. It feels a lot like trying to do taxes here in North America, but we got to come back into this game here because APA is running away with it. He's completed the Bloodthirster as well, so that triple BF sword, 80% crit chance. He is feeling so strong at this point, and he is looking to be on the cusp of the Flame Horizon farming dream as well for any mid laner here. Really an APA difference in this game, and going back to game 1, we asked, is Doxa going to be able to weather the storm versus APA in his unusual champ pool? He's busted out the Lucian twice in a row, and when we saw the Syndra being played in game 1, a classic counter pick that you mentioned, RMC, he did fairly alright of absorbing that pressure, but this time around forced to play that melee versus range matchup in order to get the set out of that bad matchup versus PCL in the top lane has really punished TSM Amateur.
Now, this is the real test for Resolve here. Eclipse? Okay, yeah, fine. Okay, just walk away, leave this turret. If you stay here, you get domed. And this will be the real test for Resolve, right? Last time we saw that they struggled when objectives were down to really find anything. Soul is a long ways away. Elder's a long ways away here. 245 for third dragon for either team coming up. Baron's still down for 210. You've taken all the inner turrets now. What does Resolve look to do in their downtime? If you just sit back and let the game happen to you, okay, this is so sketch. Anybody walks out and meets APA, they might just die in a heartbeat. TSM Amateur, the more time you give them, the more opportunities there is for them to find a pick a way back in. And for them, the kills are more valuable. If they find APA, that's a 700 gold bounty. They find PCL, that's 300 gold bounty. They find anyone else, and they might be able to push out, get themselves a turret. Mid lane's kind of low. The inner turrets are there. That's all standing gold for TSM Amateur right now.
The hard part is trying to find those picks when we look at the ward coverage that is currently on the map. Resolve has pushed up that red side, top side of the map there. Double pink wards in the enemy jungle. And if you go towards that dragon pit, you start to lose control if you're TSM Amateur as well. The only place that they really seem to have control is just around that entrance point into their own bottom side jungle. And that's not going to give you enough space to be able to dissuade Resolve from continuing to pressure this mid lane and top lane inhibitor turret. You have to try and find some kind of pick here, but with APA this strong, your only option is to go forward into him. He finds himself a rampage, dropping down around half health here. The teleport coming in from PCL as well. There will be no re-engage here from Resolve, but you just can't seem to kill the Lucian in the mid lane.
That's flash expended, ignite expended, every chip you had thrown into that. And sure, Dombre will be up in time for the Baron fight here, but do you really have a good way into that? You know, Frostforce been trying his best here. Did not actually go the Nightbringer here. Did go for the Hextech Rocket Belt. So it's not as if you're getting multiple tries at this equalizer for this Baron dance. You kind of just get one shot at it. And if you don't win it, you're going to lose that Baron. And we've seen Resolve. It's not the Elder that won them the game last time. It was the Baron.
Second Baron of the game is really the one that we were mentioning last time around. Will break the camel's back here if it is able to be picked up from Resolve. Yeah. Spawning on the map in 3 seconds here. There is no word coverage for the side of TSM Amateur, and all 5 members are here. Double 80 carries. Kai'Sa and Lucian just melting this Baron. Smite comes in for Resolve, and it is clean and easy. here for Resolve. They find themselves the second Baron of the game, and it feels like this could just be the play that is going to break this second game open.
They need to be back in now, ASAP, or they're gonna lose an inhibitor.
It should have been backed already.
Yeah, they were still trying to push the mid lane, and that's you know, what is that trade offer? I give you mid lane turret, you give me inhibitor.
You give me Nexus potentially here, as we still see Rumble is in that Dragon Pit. He wants to try and steal away this Drake, but he's going to be losing so much in his base. The first Nexus turret is being focused down here. That is one Nexus turret. This Baron is still going strong. A second wave is coming in here. Resolve has decided to back away, but to be honest with you, I don't think that they need to. I think they could have very easily ended the game there. Now it is up to TSM Amateur. They're trying to stop the backs. They're trying to just continue to buy time for Frost Force, but this is not a fight you want to be taking if you're TSM Amateur.
You know what? I for Resolve there, they do back out also because they don't have vision. They don't know where Frost Forest is, and Equalizer's range is incredibly far. So you do have to be very, very careful. If he's just, you know, running out of base with home guards there, drop the Equalizer in the choke point, in that entrance point, things could go south. And again, we talked about the bounties. We don't want to lose the Barons either on Resolve. So good choice from them to back out there. The Dragon, they don't care about it. We talked about how it'd be nice, but it's not necessary.
Teleport from APA. This could be a pick here onto Doxa.
Oh, yeah.
Colin coming. Oh my goodness. Just look at the. He goes all the way through the Haymaker Shield too. What is this? APA, you can't be bullying him like that.
Culling for a reason, man. And we already ran the math earlier before he got items. Half of it without resistances. I mean, he soaked all of it there.
He's 6 items now, by the way. By the way, 11, 1, and 6 with the completed Lord Dom's Regard.
That's a rip moment right there. They're dropping everything to wave clear. That's 2 big ultimates.
Oh no, this is just looking like doom and gloom if you're the side of TSM Amateur, when you have to use the Equalizer as well as the True Shot Barrage in order to clear out that mid lane wave. You know it's a little doomed for yourselves. 10,000 gold ahead here for Resolve as well. They're looking to end out this series in a 2-0 fashion and make their way into playoffs as quickly as possible, because they do still have another 2 series to play here. Mid lane inhibitor turret is going to be going down, but the inhibitor will not be pressured just quite yet. Resolve playing so patiently, playing with so much respect for their opponents.
They know right now that TSM Amateur have to have that one last fight left. The super minions are pushing top side here. They don't want to get pinched. They're actually going back to shop. Like, what is there even to get, guys? Just group up and take this in one of the lanes here. It's not as if you've got that much gold burning a hole in your pocket.
Especially considering that APA, 6 items, the Lucian cannot go back to base. He cannot get any stronger. If you continue to stall this out on the side of Resolve, you're only helping out TSM Amateur here. I do like to see that, you know, APA didn't go back to base just quite yet. He is sticking around. They're trying to set up some kind of pick here for the side of Resolve. They want to find somebody in transition. Coling one more time comes out, chunks out Frost Force, but is not doing quite as much damage as we'd like to see. But a rotation in the mid lane means that the second inhibitor will finally be going down here. That's the Equalizer. This is the fight for TSM Amateur. They want to try and make this one happen while they still can, but there's just too much damage coming in from the side of Resolve here. The True Shot Barrage does so much work, but is not enough, as 2 members have already fallen down for TSM Amateur. It is going to be this last Nexus turret that is being focused down, trying to use this Flame Spitter, trying to get as many shutdowns as possible, but APA, he is untouched, he is unkilled, he is 14, 1, and 7, and he is looking to end out this second game 2-0 for Resolve in the first day here of Risen Championship Series.
Here's the way to end it to APA. All right, pretty amazing. Diving that turret for Gorica with regard.